What do you think about going out to Nevada here real quick, Kenneth?
I trust your judgment completely.
That is a terrible way to start the show, but
I do. Yeah.
we've got Marco, him in Nevada. It sounds like you have something interesting for us today. How are you? And what do you want to talk about?
I'm doing all right, man. How are you guys?
Yeah, not too bad.
Doing great.
Okay, cool. So I understand the speculation on the existence of God, and especially wanting proof, because I grew up a Christian out here. I moved out here from California very early, and I did go to Sunday school as a kid. And the first thing, growing up in elementary school, I thought of going to Sunday school right across the street from my elementary school. I was like, man, a lot of this stuff sounds like fiction that I'm reading right over there at my school, which, how does the staff turn to a snake? How does a whale fly up in the air, from all these things that I know to be logic on earth, So then it really led me to question my faith and my beliefs. So I asked my friends, and then very young, at 10 to 12 years old, my friends would tell me, oh yeah, I'm an atheist. We don't worship Jesus Christ and all these things inside my household. And I was like, okay. So I had this speculation for a while going into middle school, where I was this atheist, and I didn't believe that, there was any afterlife. I didn't believe in any supernatural, just because I knew only the things that I looked at and only the things that I could chalk up to physical proof and matter.
Marco, so can I just jump in for a second and just say, I love all this. I think it's very interesting. If you and I had more time just to sit, drinking some tea, we could gladly keep going down that route. It looks like you have a personal revelation of God, and I think that's going to be something that's the most important for myself and Kenneth, and then of course all our viewers here today and in the future. What was that personal revelation? I mean, I'm going to take the stance that you're probably a reasonable person. You probably want evidence just like the rest of us. But yeah, what's that personal revelation?
Yeah, I was kind of giving you a prologue onto this personal revelation. So I basically became agnostic in high school, and I was just smoking I was just smoking a lot of weed at the time. I was doing a lot of drugs and stuff like that. And then this personal revelation I had over my friend's house one night is that, we were dabbling in drugs. Somebody can chalk up your feelings and my feelings and a lot more feelings that people get on these drugs as chemical imbalance and whatnot. Or you could chalk up anybody's feelings to imbalance. So, you really can't care for anybody's feelings if you think about it that way. But this personal revelation I had was all of a sudden all these inanimate objects and media, something as simple as a TV show or a song, started reflecting my own personal experiences in my life and how I chose to, treat people that I knew personally. I treated them very badly, in the past and stuff like that. It's kind of like the coincidences, that somebody would say, oh yeah, how coincident that I look, how much of a coincidence I look up and I see the time 777 or 666, whatever, and, or,
probably neither of those.
That'd be weird on a clock. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
might be the
neither of those. How funny that I say that. But any time under that, of course, that would fall on the clock.
Marco, can I just shout back to you and see if you and I are on the same page? Make sure I'm following with you, because what it kind of sounds like to me is that you were in a place where you weren't exactly super happy. Maybe you were feeling kind of just bummed in general, stuck in a rut. Something I think probably all of us can relate to. And one night, as you were dabbling in drugs, as you said it, with your friends, you had a particularly profound experience. Am I tracking with you so far?
The argument from tripping balls.
Yeah.
I believe is what
it kind of followed me into my sober life.
Yeah, I get that. Can I shout though to you a story that a buddy of mine told me? So about 4 years ago, a friend of mine was, not really happy with their job, and they just got broken up with, and they just weren't super happy, and they sat down one day and they did a shit ton of acid. And in the middle of that, they called me and they said, I know this isn't going to make any sense to you, Rarity, but years from now, a man named Marco from Nevada will call and tell you about a story, and that story will be wrong. Do you think my friend's experience is actually relating to reality, or do you think maybe there's something else going on? Because his story sounds pretty similar to yours, doesn't it?
I mean, yeah, but I mean, if it were to actually happen, and he said that past in the past tense, what would you feel about that?
If I'm sorry, ask the question again. Say it again.
If your friend in this past, you know, is claiming, you know, if your friend had this profound drug experience and he have never met me and never have experienced me, then, and he told you, hey, you're going to get a call from a guy named Marco from Nevada in the future, and you do get a call from a guy
and he's going to be wrong
in the future.
It's specific. It's specific towards your claim, though, Marco. Yeah, yeah. My friend told me that you would call me.
Yeah, and yeah. So in your belief of something higher, or, you know, higher power than you, if he received this message from something higher than him, which he would be claiming, oh my God, like, this is crazy. I received this crazy message, and you know, it did come into fruition that I was wrong in the future or whatever, but he was right. Wouldn't something higher and more authority than him in the physical realm and in our earth have told him something?
No. And I'm going to let Kenneth tell you why.
SR, you already said that your friends did some drugs before calling you. So I don't know how much higher this authority needs to be. But but
like high enough to read the future, I think would be crazy, right?
Well, hang on a second, Marco.
Here's the thing, man. With respect to any given experience, what does the experience itself tell us about the cause or the nature of the experience?
Yeah.
The cause and the nature. So that's what I was going to get to explaining before you kind of wanted to chalk up the experience up to just, you know, kind of tripping balls, which I understand. Well, but then I realized
neither of us chalked up the experience to anything. Neither of us have made any judgment about what caused your experience. At this point, who knows how many candidate explanations could be on the table. Certainly not me. But that's why I'm asking the question I'm asking, because like all of us are constantly having experiences. What does an experience tell us about the cause or the nature of an experience, though?
I'm not exactly understanding the question. Like, so you're asking what the experience has any proof of God in it, or the experience?
Essentially, yeah. So like, so you've had an experience, you're telling us, and you're, you know, I'm sort of preemptively saying, because of what you told the call screeners, that you've attributed this experience to something divine. But like, how do you know? You know, how did you rule out? You know, I'm not even going to address drugs. How did you rule out that you're being pranked by a mischievous wizard? I don't know.
Aliens. How'd you rule out aliens?
Exactly that. My like, you know, my own personal life became kind of like what I felt like was a joke, you know, from this prank that I kind of received. I was like, well, you know, I was just on drugs, you know, so I'm just going to take a break off these drugs. So I went kind of cold turkey after that. I had smoked for a bit, but then I went cold turkey off weed and everything for about a year and a month. And it almost immediately, every which way around the world, you know, I would go over a friend's house, family's houses, anywhere. And this kind of haunting and something in my own sober life was kind of following me, and not necessarily from the past. It was in real time in any scenario with people that I knew in my own personal life. And, you know, you can go as far as to say, oh, you know, synchronicity and coincidence is nothing but just that, you know, just random coincidence. But, you know, if you were to have a dream, let's say, and this is hypothetically speaking, but also my own personal experience, if you were to have a dream, say that you were burning in hell, right? And you were to wake up, and for every month, or, you know, for months at a time, you know, somebody would open up that door exactly before you could even open your eyes. And you had a dream that you were burning in hell, and somebody would say, wait. Hey, Marco, is it a bit hot in here?
Marco,
is it a bit,
Marco,
or,
hey, I'm sorry, like we're so far off the rails here. I've got to try to drag us back, because somehow we got from I had an experience with God to now we're talking about dreams and synchronicity and all kinds of other shit. Like, let's just deal with the one thing. So you had an experience. Like, how can you, and you're saying that you know what the nature of that experience was, what the cause of the experience was, and that it was supernatural. How do you know that?
How do I know it's supernatural?
Yeah.
Well,
let's just keep it simple, man.
It's kind of this intelligence as to where, like, you know, it's kind of just these weird things that you can chalk up to just mere coincidence or just speculation and own personal experience and revelation. But, you know, when you realize that something could use potentially other things that you see as source material for whichever you would use for whether judgment or, you know, condemnation onto somebody's own person, something to pull something or for that, something that you can't really recognize beyond your own speculation of just matter, you know, has an intelligence and a morality to also bring these, whether past memories, and associate them with real matter.
Marco, I'm gonna rein you in just a little bit, because we weren't really going towards kind of the thrust of what Kenneth was going, but something you said there is really interesting to me, and I've heard this kind of similar concept said by a lot of different people who believe in things that I don't come to the same conclusions on. You said that there's this entity that you can't really recognize, you don't really understand. Why in one sentence are you claiming that you can't understand this thing and then telling us the understanding? Yeah. Do you feel like that maybe butts up against each other and just kind of has some tension there? If we can't recognize it,
do you believe that you understand any teacher that is any type of source material that comes from something or a person? Would you say that you understand that person fully from something merely?
Well, no, that's not at all. Yeah, that's not at all where we're going. So the issue isn't about having complete and total knowledge. The issue is just getting to the very, very smallest of tiniest of littlest of steps of knowledge and demonstration, right? If what we have at the end of the day is just a very large question mark, how do we then ascribe any attributes or qualities of any kind? If you know that you don't understand this thing, how do you then from there go on to explain it and understand it? Because I think that's kind of where Kenneth was going from the beginning, which is kind of where I was going with that silly little story of mine about my buddy. I don't even have any friends, so that story wasn't true. But no, but as somebody who's not Hindu, as somebody who doesn't believe that crystals have power, as somebody who doesn't accept the whole Jesus Christ, Son of God, died on a cross, all that stuff. Like, I don't come to the same conclusion as a lot of different people, but all of those people make claims that conflict with each other. And when they conflict with each other, it's hard for me to be able to kind of figure out which one is real. And that's kind of what our whole message this whole time has been, which is, do you really feel like you have a solid way of being able to say this experience is because of X, and X being that supernatural divine thing? And if you do have that answer,
100%.
Well, what is it? Well, yeah, what is it, Marco?
Because what we've had so far was, I don't know, like, I can't explain the nature of this experience. I can't call it a coincidence. Right. Therefore, it was God. And that is just a big old leap that you're making that's not justified yet. So if you're going to justify it, now would be the time.
Well, unfortunately, man, you know, you could leave a lot of things up to speculation, which, you know, is knowledge that you already have, right? And all I could give you is really this, if, you know, kind of foreseeing the road this would have to go down, is, you know, what I kind of said before is that if, you know, say if you met another human and you don't understand or know anything about that human, but he has
come on, man. SR was just saying, do you have a solid way to demonstrate the truth of what you're claiming? And you were like, 100%. Yeah, 100%, 100%. And now you're doing the bullshit thing again. Come on, man.
Okay. Well, listen, man, I don't know. I'm just trying to stay respectful of the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I think you've been super respectful.
You're asking for a solid proof. And that's the thing, is that
evidence, man.
in the Bible, in the Bible, me personally, I can't give you an honest, solid proof. You know,
Okay.
and that's the thing.
Okay,
That's
stop
the thing
right
that's
there.
funny about
Stop right there.
something.
Stop right there, Marco. Stop,
Okay,
stop.
okay. So
And here's why. Here's why. Because that is a beautiful freaking thing to admit. That is something that is so difficult for so many people who feel so damn sure of things. It's something about us as people that we really like that assurance. We really like that solid feeling that we understand, and simply just saying out loud, hey, I actually don't have a good way to determine this. I actually don't have a good reason to believe this. Well, good. Now there's things you can do.
Yeah.
Now you know where to start, and you know to start investigating.
Well, that's the thing, is that you know, I kind of got to explaining in the first place was my own personal concrete evidence of things that I've experienced that are beyond just what I could chalk up to physical matter, is, you know, of courses of action and a line of events that I've seen with my own eyes. But it's not necessarily a rock that I could pick up in front of you and show you, and I can't explain it to you with.
But do you see how we're back to? Do you see how we're back to where we started? As if we didn't have that whole conversation about how there's competing claims from multiple people that all believe things that Kenneth and I don't believe, and we're just trying to figure out which one of you is right. Do you see how we're back to that again?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the issue.
We're also butting up against a problem.
But the same way you could ask me to prove this, the same way that you could ask me to prove that there is a God is the same way that I could ask you to prove that there isn't a God. And that's why.
Well, I don't think either Kenneth or I would definitively say that there is no 100% can't possibly be a God. I think mainly what we've been saying, especially on this call, is that we just don't agree with the conclusion that you have. You have the conclusion there is a God. And Kenneth and I are just saying, great, show us. And currently what you've said is you don't have a manner of doing that. And you don't have a way to determine between competing claims that are all talking about the same God.
Yeah.
So
and
go ahead.
Just a minute ago, you used the word evidence.
So would you say that?
Hang on, Marco.
Really quick,
hang on, Marco.
I promise I'll be fast. You use the word evidence, and this is a sticking point for me because a lot of the times, colloquially, when I'm talking to people, they use the word evidence to just mean the reasons why they believe something. But I think that that's not what evidence is. I think evidence is anything that can be used to demonstrate that a claim is true. There has to be some relationship between the evidence and this usefulness for demonstrating the truth of a claim, for it to be evidence in the first place. All right. And just, I have to say, the whole thing of like, well, you know, you can't provide evidence that the God isn't real. You're absolutely right. So like in the same way, right now, it may look, if you're watching, it may look like I'm sitting in a chair. But if I said I'm not sitting in a chair, I have a shape-shifting pet dragon named Steve, and Steve has formed himself into what looks like a chair, but I'm really sitting on my shape-shifting pet dragon. Okay, you can't prove that claim is false. You cannot prove that claim is false. But you are not justified in believing that it is true. You're not listening, Marco.
But do you believe in mathematics?
You're still not listening. You're still not listening because I haven't even finished speaking and you're already talking. So you can't prove that that the claim about the dragon thing is false, but recognize that you're not justified in believing that the claim is true. In the same way, if you're going to say, oh, you had an experience with God, I can't prove that what you're saying is false. Right. But if you don't have evidence that it's true, then nobody should believe you, including yourself.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Marco.
Yeah, but okay, so hear me out. Okay. You're saying that I don't have this concrete evidence that that God is real, and I can't really write it down on paper for you, and I can't give you a verbal equation like I'm trying to give you right now. But the thing is that math is something that exists. We know math to be something real, and you know you can say math is something that man created, but math is something that man discovered, right? So if Albert Einstein, somebody were to come to you and write an equation down on paper, and they were to write this down, and we all live by math. You live by math. You believe in math. But, you know, the equation and something that you wrote down on paper is merely proof of math, or not. You could call it proof of math. But at the same time, it's not necessarily proof, but something of human speculation. and something that we line up with weird synchronicities and with things, with characters that we have made up, like letters and numbers. Now,
Marco, real quick here, because we do have some other really great callers, and we've already been. Man, I know you hear me. I know you do. But I got you muted for a second, Marco, because I just got one little quick question. But I know I have really enjoyed this. I hope you have too. Hopefully it gives you some things to kind of go and think about afterwards. Do you feel that you were just answering Kenneth's question? Do you feel like you could shout back to me in just maybe a quick sentence or two, kind of the main theme of what Kenneth was just getting at? Because I think exactly what he just said is just so freaking golden, that I just want to make sure that everybody knows that concept. So he was talking about a pet dragon being his chair. Do you think you could just kind of shout back to us, maybe a quick sentence, what that was? What Kenneth said?
Elaborate again.
Yeah, it's okay. Kenneth, just a few moments ago, before I was talking, Kenneth spent a good few minutes laying out really well, kind of the thrust of what he and I have been asking you about. Okay, it was all right. It was all right. Yeah, no, it was fine. But he laid this concept out, and he used an analogy of like a shape-shifting dragon that changes into a chair and stuff. Can you kind of shout back what the main theme of what Kenneth was saying was for me real quick?
No, I can't really understand
that. That's okay.
That question.
That is okay, Marco. And here's why. Hang out with us, because we're gonna let you go, and we'll run through it one more time. So just find us on the YouTube and watch this back, man, and just go through it. Like, that's been so valuable to me, being able to have conversations with people in a recorded format like this, because I can go back and I can look at things and I can say, oh my gosh, like I didn't have a good answer to that, or, oh, no way, like I totally just went on a tangent there. But Marco, thank you so much for giving us a call and hanging out. I thought it was a really good time, and we do have some other great callers. But Kenneth, real quick, what could you shout to me in maybe a sentence or two what you were thinking? Yeah. Just because I think it's a really good point.
It's Russell's teapot, man. It's just, when is it time to believe a claim? And people will do this all the time of going, well, you can't prove God's not real. And I will always say, correct. That is right.
Got me.
And I don't try to. I mean, I'll say that with certain gods, depending on how they want to define their God, we might be able to determine whether that God is real or not. But if you're just gonna say you can't prove that this unfalsifiable thing isn't there, then it's like, well, yeah, no, I can't. So I would say go read up about Russell's teapot, because old Bertrand explains it a million times more eloquently than I possibly could.
So.